and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the commentators, guests, and the host. They do not explicitly or necessarily reflect nor represent the policy or views held by Tobago Updates or this network. Tobago Updates or this network cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program. Do we over?
Hi, good evening, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of the Minority Report. I'm David, your host, and we are back in studios here yet again another Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. where we always bring you facts, always bring you the information, always bring the conversation to your door about what's happening right here in the island of Tobago. A lot happening in varying quarters, and we are going to really have some potent discussions this evening. For our late start, we were working out some kinks, but thank God we are here, and so we want to encourage you to allow persons to get on board as quickly as possible. For those of you who have already logged on, I want to encourage you to share the live. You can do so from the Tobago Updates website. You can share the link from the Tobago Updates YouTube channel, or you can share the link from the Tobago Updates Facebook page. Those of you who want to interact with us a bit, you want to share your comments, share your ideas, share your views, the Facebook page is definitely the platform for you. If you are a Flow subscriber, you can simply turn your television to channel 121 Hub TV, that's HUB TV, 121 Hub TV, or 130 AVS. That's 130 AVS, and that's if you're a Flow subscriber. If you are subscribed to AMPLIA, the AMPLIA network, however, you just tune your television to channel 102. That's channel 102 on the AMPLIA network, and you can view the program from the comfort of your living room right there on your television. You may not be able to comment or share in the conversations with us, but you definitely will be able to view the program by that medium. So I want to encourage you, get your friends together, get your neighbors, get your relatives, get the kids. It's important for them as well to understand what is actually taking place in Tobago and what are some of the conversations that are making their way around the island. This evening, we want to get right into our programs and the varying discussions. Joining me on the program this evening, none other than the Minority Leader, Assemblyman Kelvin Morris. How are you this evening, sir?
Let me say good evening, Maryland. Good evening, all of Tobago, all our viewers throughout Trinidad and Tobago and the diaspora. Welcome to another episode of the Minority Report.
So I want us to before we actually get into some meaty discussions, football is in the air. We see, we saw, those guys, our guys actually fought really hard, but we were defeated 3-2 by Jamaica this evening. I know there are many persons who would have varying opinions on the outcome and the game itself, the play. I don't know, Minority Leader, if you had any opportunity to see clips or anything like that. The team being led by Dwight York, obviously, as coach.
Well, I was quite impressed actually. I found the team in terms of their level of play has improved tremendously under Dwight York, and we want to commend him for bringing that, that attitude and that passion and that drive and that discipline as well.
Correct.
And now you're seeing the team playing more coordinated. They actually have, when they go forward, they actually have a plan. And so although we lost this evening 3-2 to Jamaica, I think there was a lot of positive that we can take from there.
Definitely.
Next week, Friday, at the Hazy Crawford Stadium, the team plays an important World Cup qualifier. I see it as a must-win. And I think once we win that qualifier, then we go to the next phase. So I want to wish Dwight and the guys all the best going forward. And
well, as we are on the topic of football, we want to branch across as well. I see you were featured in a recent game, as recent as yesterday as well. This is a league being run. Tell us a bit about it.
Truth be told, football is one of my passion. It's a sport I love dearly. Of course, post-COVID and with my new role as assemblyman and minority leader, truthfully, I had not had much time to actually play. So I got called out by a colleague of mine, Mr. Joe Mopit, thinking I was going initially to just a fet match. So I said, okay, I'll go along and try my hand. Notwithstanding, I hadn't played for so long. And the first match wasn't so bad. I mean, I had to come up because I was toast, I was roast. But then I went on, yesterday we had the knockout third place game, which we won 4-1. And of course, I am still feeling the effects of that, as you can see me limping into this studio. But it was a very enjoyable experience, and I had my son there watching as well. I'm now officially passing the baton over to him. Okay, I'm fully retired now. I'm not even going to fool myself.
A number of guys really supporting this
yes, it was an excellent initiative. And I've always said I want to commend Jomo for that, bringing the community of Lambo together, bringing the teams. That league is a league I too would have played when I was more active. And, I had some fun memories in that league, winning most goals, and when we won the tournament and all that back in the day. But now I have to really come to terms with the fact that no, that will not be, those glory days will not be, it's not so easy to rekindle.
It's really commendable to see you actually made it out on the field.
Yeah, but it was fun.
There's a bag of ice that you
can't you see,
So folks, you actually seeing glimpses of the minority leaders.
I scored, I scored.
You scored?
Yeah, I scored.
Well, congratulations to that man. At least a glimpse of the whole form is still there. But this is really good. We need to see more situations like these where the community is brought together. And again, one thing you always say, sport is a unifier.
Yeah, it is. It is a unifier, and it's something that really brings people together. Communities, nations. So wanna really commend Jomo for this initiative, and of course, we continue. I probably might try. We are looking to do something in the Darrell Spring area and also in Wim. So you may just see me again, but I'll do some training. I'll do some training because I recognize you can't stop play football and just think you could run on a field. It doesn't work like that. You have to be prepared.
Very, very well done, man. Very, very well done. Again, in the same vein of congratulations, we want to send congratulations out as well to two female Tobagonians who now both sit in the Senate. One as an independent senator Miss Candice Jones Simmons, and the one as an opposition senator, Miss Melanie Roberts Rajman. You know, really want to congratulate both women for this step. It's a new phase, and again, we see our country really placing that emphasis on allowing women the opportunities to really serve.
So you want me to give you 2 fun facts?
Sure.
So both Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Roberts Rajman, they are both Bishopian alumnus. So they are both Bishopians, but even more interesting, they are both from the best house in Bishop, which is Anstey. So Anstey continues to I'm not too sure what it is with Anstey and politicians, but Anstey seems to continue to produce a lot of noteworthy politicians, the Prime Minister, of course, the Chief Secretary. I think the former President of the Senate also was in Anstey. And, well, Chief Secretary, Minority Leader. Now we have 2 senators, Independent Senator Jones and now Senator Roberts Rajman. So I want to also send my personal congratulations to those 2 distinguished daughters of Tobago, attorneys both as well.
Yes, yes.
And we know in their own sphere, they are excellent and very reputable attorneys. And we know that they will do an excellent job in, you know, carrying the Tobago's perspective in the parliament, especially when it comes to the conversation of autonomy and Tobago getting, you know, that greater legislative authority to chart its own destiny.
So we do, in fact, look forward for great things, and from our 2 prospects, they really are going to take this thing to a next level. Congratulations to the both women. So, Minority Leader, we have some stuff to discuss going into the program. However, it would be remiss of us if we did not do a bit of reflection coming out of last week's program. Now, we had a very intense discussion last week where we spoke to, or we introduced the public to the conversation that involved a number of new ambulances that were purchased by this administration, 3 of which were already, quote unquote, completed, commissioned, and delivered, and were said that they were going to be put into action immediately. What raised concern last week was the fact that one of these ambulances had shut down, leaving, I think, 2 patients stranded, and they had to be rescued sometime after. And God, this wasn't that serious. But we have now another situation with the same group of ambulances that occurred yesterday. And we want the director just to run this short clip before we go into the discussion.
Folks, I want you to caption this. So, this here is the brand new ambulance purchased by the THA, right? This ambulance, no-name ambulance, ordered from a company in India, costs you, the taxpayer, $1.5 million, right? But this very ambulance was taking 5 patients up to Roxborough from the Scarborough General Hospital to get CT scans, because the CT scan machine is not working at Scarborough. That ambulance that just left is the old ambulance. So this ambulance could not power up the hill at John Dyer. So this new ambulance had to call the old ambulance that it's supposed to replace for help. So this old ambulance, you see, just took away the 5 patients and they are now conveying them to Roxborough, while your new ambulance has to turn back and go back to base because it cannot go up a simple hill. Imagine buying an ambulance in Tobago that can't go up a hill. Waste. TRHA, get it together.
Now, this, I think we have gone way overboard now. Minority Leader, enter with this discussion.
So, this scenario is scandalous. And nothing less than an investigation, an independent investigation at this time will suffice. Because what you have here, allegedly, is a situation where the procurement process was compromised to the point of ensuring that the end result was that we got coming to our shores inferior ambulance, cheap ambulance that we are paying an exorbitant amount of money for. So you're paying top dollars for something that is not worth the top dollars. And ultimately, it is the people of Tobago, the patients who have to be transported in these ambulances, that our lives are being sacrificed. Because just imagine, think about it. These ambulances, it is clear that what they have purchased are ambulances that are not fit for purpose, cannot handle the terrain of Tobago, and therefore it is unreliable. And it means at any point, these ambulance carrying, because an ambulance is for emergency cases. So imagine you supposed to be carrying patients who are basically between life and death, emergency, and you don't even know if the ambulance would be able to take you from point A to point B, because already we are seeing a clear sign that they just cannot handle the terrain of Tobago. And therefore we have to ask ourselves, who is responsible for this mess? Because we would have, from very early, we raised the alarm, and this is worse. I keep saying, this is the chief secretary waved a brown envelope about a zip line, but the procurement of these very inferior ambulances, it is worse than the zip line. We have spent $17 million to procure these 12 ambulances, and as we speak, after a whole year, we have only received 4 of those of the 12. And out of the 4 of the 12, 1 is already damaged because of some incident, because they had to move after the ambulances were delivered to Tobago, they had to be returned to Trinidad to do further retrofitting. And in those movements, apparently 1 got damaged. So we only have 3 at this time. And even with the 3 that we have, only 1 is in use. The other 2 is out of service. And we have to ask ourselves, what is really going on with the purchase of these ambulances? And I ask this question on behalf of you, the people of Tobago. You have a chief secretary that walked the length and breadth persecuting a zipline matter. And I asked him, as a responsible chief secretary, will you at least give the people of Tobago the respect and call for an investigation, so that we can be confident in our minds that at least the process was above board? And he refused. You can Google search, my fellow Tobagonians, don't take my word for it. Google search this brand, Force. And when that brand comes up, put it in, like if you want to purchase one of those vehicles. And you would realize that these vehicles online, you can get it for something as between the 16 million to 36 million rupees, which is the equivalent in US between 20,000 to 32,000 US. If you do the conversion, it is about 138,000 TT to 224,000 TT. Yet, this TRHA is paying for those very same vehicles that you can Google and order online for 224,000 TT, $1.5 million. And if that is not highway robbery, I do not know what is. This requires the intervention of the OPR. It requires the intervention of the Anti-Corruption Investigative Bureau.
This is serious.
This is scandalous.
And the Chief Secretary gave a response.
And they are hoping that it would just go away, blow away. I want you to hear the chief. This is a man who telling all the Tobagonians that they don't have no money. And in a situation like this where you spend $1.5 million and you telling me after 3 weeks.
For each one.
$1.5 million per ambulance. And after 3 weeks, brand new ambulance can't even go up John Dial Hill.
You
ain't even start to go up proper hill yet. You ain't even start to go up them hill in Charlottesville. And Bloody Bay and North Side and all them areas. Palutuve.
Can't come out of Mason.
And you can't even climb up.
Yes.
You can't even climb up one of the most.
This is absurd.
You can't even climb up John Dial Hill?
Let's hear what the Chief Secretary had to say. Mr. Director, run that clip for us, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Presiding Officer. As far as the Executive Council is aware, there is no ambulance with a reported value of $500,000. And until such time as that becomes evidential, there is no investigation at present.
Understand how? Yeah, I want you to play that over so people can understand what.
Let's play it again.
Thank you very much, Madam Presiding Officer. As far as the Executive Council is aware, there is no ambulance with a reported value of $500,000. And until such time as that becomes evidential, there is no investigation at present.
So, brothers and sisters, that is what you call playing smart with foolishness. Because here it is, we have produced the evidence.
Yeah.
We have produced that just go on the Force website. That is the actual manufacturer's website. Put in for that very ambulance that they purchase. And you will see the cost between 16 million to 36 million rupees, which the equivalent converted to US is between 20,000 US to 32,000 US, which is converted to TT $138,000 to $224,000. Of course, we catered. The reason why the 500,000 ballpark is because for customs and duties and freight and shipping and all of that. But that is the cost. About 500,000 when you take all that in. And the Chief Secretary is pretending to not know that fact. And we are saying if that fact is available, not by Kelvon, but it is available online, wouldn't you as a responsible Chief Secretary concern about the expenditure of public money?
Correct.
Use your office to ensure that the people of Tobago got value for money. Because the flip side is, I want you all to consider this. The former administration in 2015 purchased directly from the manufacturers at Ford in Miami 10 ambulances at a total cost of $5.3 million. I want you to do the comparison.
Yeah.
So in 2015, 10 brand new Ford ambulances were purchased for only $5.3 million, which is an average unit cost of $530,000. Right? And that was 2015.
Yeah.
These ambulances, even now, continue to provide service within the Tobago Regional Health Authority. So they are proven ambulances that can withstand the terrain. Compare that to this administration, who is spending over $17 million for 12. So the PNM spent only 5.3 for 10. This administration is spending 3 times the amount for 12. Which is per unit $1.5 million. So in a real sense, they are paying 3 times the price for 1 unit. But what is even worse comparatively in terms of the brand, this brand that they have purchased and spent $1.5 million is in fact a cheaper brand to the Ford. Yet we spent way less on the Ford. So somewhere you have to ask yourself, if this brand really only is valued around $500,000, where the rest of money gone? Because it's an additional $1 million that is available. So who is profiting? Who is benefiting from that additional $1 million per vehicle? And if you do the maths across 12, that is $12 million. So what we are saying to you, in a real sense, if the value of those 12 ambulances is somewhere around $6 million.
Correct.
That is the reality. Yet we are spending $16 to $17 million for ambulances. That is really the 12 combined really is costing you $6 million. And this is a clear case. This is scandalous. This is wastage.
And minority.
And this is smart manism.
The question is, did the THA make this purchase direct? Or is it that there's a broker involved, a middleman, somebody in a cut?
It is alleged, based on the information, the allegation is that there was a procurement process, right? And if you look at this screen, this is from the TRHA screen for the procurement, and you would see that I'm not lying, that the awarded contract was for $5.535 million.
Correct.
And therefore we have to ask our question, how did this balloon from $5.535 million to $17 million?
Correct. Because this would have been the figure.
This would have been the actual award and the estimate that you would spend.
That you would have gotten for even the quotation.
Because what I want people to understand as well, it is very rare that you would find an ambulance costing over $1.5 million. The established industry standard cost is between $500,000 for your normal type, and if you want one that comes customized with extra kind of features, at the very high end, you will pay $800,000. And we are talking about brands like Mercedes and Ford and etc. and Toyota. But for an inferior, no-name brand like Force, where also the other issue is maintenance, because where would you get these parts? How will you get these parts? And where the average, I want people to understand the contract award, right? The value of the contract that was awarded was for $5.5 million.
And look at the date.
Right? So how did this balloon from $5.5 million to $17 million? And what we actually, the ambulance that we ordered is not the ambulance that we got. It's like when and for the people who shop on Temu and Shein, And you know, sometimes you would see something looking nice. A nice shirt. And when it comes in the package, is that is what Tobago got with these ambulances.
Wow.
So this fellow Tobagonians, we are being robbed blindly because they believe nobody wants to hear the PNM. They believe nobody wants to hear the minority leader, and they believe they can do whatsoever, and they have free reign because nobody is going to hold them accountable. And that is why they can misappropriate and misspend and mismanage your funds like this. This chief secretary promised to fix it and to do better. And what you are seeing here is a scandalous procurement arrangement that after a whole year, you see when this procurement process took place? In 2023. Yeah. And we are in 2025. And having gone through that procurement process since 2023, of the 12 ambulances, 2 years later, all we have is 3 ambulances and 1 in rotation, and that one that is in rotation is unreliable, cannot pop up a little hill, and you have to ask yourself the question, what will happen? What will happen if they have to go up greater terrain? Imagine that going down into Charlottesville and then have to come up.
No, it had to stay down the hill. And that's if it even make it up.
Well, that's if it could. Yeah, so based on what we are saying, it cannot make the run to country.
At all.
So what it means right now, and I want Tobagonians to understand why this is so alarming, so vexing. They are currently leasing ambulance services from a Trinidad-based company. They have reduced the fleet in anticipation that they were going to get new ambulances. But now that these ambulances are proving unreliable, unstable, and unfit for purpose, it means they now have to keep leasing these vehicles. So not only would you have already spent $17 million for new vehicles that cannot be used or is not fit for purpose, you're also spending additional money leasing these ambulances to supplement the shortfall and the demand. So we are spending money twice on a service that we should only be spending for once. So when you go to the hospital and you can't get medication, understand why. When you as a medical practitioner, when you can't get your equipment, your syringes, gloves, and all the things to protect you, understand why. When you call for health services, when you have your emergency and they can't come on time, understand why. Because imagine we have a system now where imagine when that ambulance broke down, 2 ambulances had to come and basically rescue the 5 patients who were in there going to get CT scan. And you could imagine you're already under duress. And then you trying to go up John Dial Hill. And every time the ambulance try to go up John Dial Hill, you just recognize that all they're not going anywhere. It's losing power and rolling down back. Imagine being unwell and have to go through that drama.
And remember, that was the same issue for the first
all
one.
This is down to the mismanagement, the poor leadership that we are seeing in the health sector. The health sector is in crisis under Dr. Faith Brebner. And that is a fact. People are complaining to me, telling me the lines, the wait for health services is the longest
ridiculous
they have waited in as far as they can remember. We are seeing more and more incidents of adverse experience health in receiving care under this current Secretary of Health. I mean, people not talking openly, but it is happening quietly, and they are calling me and complaining.
Yeah.
And while this is happening, we have a TRHA
having a good time.
Having a good time with your public funds. While you are not getting the service, is wanting to have a good time with the money.
Yeah.
But why would you bring that ratchet looking ambulance for like, if Tobagonians ain't worth nothing?
Yeah.
There are so many nice looking modern ambulances, and yet you went and bring something that looking like them long time ice cream truck.
Somebody said those are the old American school buses.
Yeah, those old school.
Yeah,
look,
ones.
These are modern type. That's Ford. That's the upgraded Ford. Reliable, proven. You bypass that. Yeah. You have the Mercedes-Benz type. Bypass that and bring to us some long, funny looking ambulance that ain't worth a pint. Can't even go up a little hill. Look at that. Like if we are second class citizens, like we living in the Stone Age. Going back to Flintstone Age, the only thing missing is Flintstone running with the ambulance. Look the wheels.
It can't go up John Dial Hill.
Look those wheels.
Cyclists that's ride up that hill.
This is poor.
We calling on the secretary to give an account, and even the chief secretary.
It tells me who you are for accepting this kind of nonsense. Yes. Because if you value yourself and value who you are as a Tobagonian, this will be rejected, and you will join the call for a thorough and independent investigation. How could we spend $1.5 million for an ambulance as inferior as that? Didn't come with any air condition. It is a manual, where we call it for what it is, a stick shift.
Yeah.
Not even automatic.
Long, see a stick shift.
I understand the stretcher can't even carry more than 250 pounds. The clutch is sticking. There's so many issues with the ambulances. So many issues. And yet we spent $1.5 million for one of those ratchet looking ambulance.
It's a joke.
Ambulance that online you could purchase for 224,000 TT. We are spending out $1.5 million. That is scandalous. That is highway robbery. And that requires an investigation. Because somebody laughing with all the way to the bank.
Yeah, somebody eating our food.
Or bodies.
Yeah. Wow. So folks, we definitely, I know we spent some time on this particular issue, but it's because we would have brought it up last week and exposed a number of things. And here it is, as fate would have it. No pun intended. We are back here with this same issue, and healthcare is something that is of utmost importance and critical. That is life.
That is life and death.
Any nation.
The point is that, and it's emergency services, so this isn't something you could take a chance with. You are playing with the lives of Tobagonians.
Exactly.
And everyone else who has to acquire that service. You are playing with lives.
Wow. So we definitely want to hear something from the secretary and or the chief secretary on this particular matter and come and account to the people. We're going to go to a short break. And when we get back from that break, we're going to continue our conversations this evening. Still a lot more to ventilate, and we want you to stay locked on with us, stay logged on, invite someone, call someone, tell them the program is on, and we'll be back shortly.
TNTech is pleased to advise that its Roxborough Service Center has reopened. Starting Monday, 10th March, customers can once more visit the Roxborough Administrative Building to pay TNTech bills, request new connections, and more. TNTech, powering the nation into the next generation.
Are you in a dispute with a registered investment service provider of the TTSEC? Or maybe you're the victim of an investment scam? You can lodge a complaint or submit an anonymous tip to the Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission. Download our Investor Protection app or go to ttsec.org.tt to access our complaint form or submit an anonymous tip. Write a clear summary of your complaint. Submit copies of supporting documents along with the originals for verification. Provide a copy of the feedback received from the entity regarding your complaint. All investor complaints or scam reports submitted by the public are acknowledged and reviewed by the TTSEC. Investigations are pursued based on the outcome of the review. Trinidad and Tobago Securities and Exchange Commission, protecting the interests of investors and the public. You invest, we protect. Everyone benefits.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes. For breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
Courts is well known as the Caribbean's largest retailer, providing consumers for generations with the very best products to enhance their homes. This year, we bring our expertise to businesses. Courts Business Solutions will serve small, medium, and large companies with the very best products at the most competitive prices, backed by warranties and after-sales support. Hoteliers, office managers, restaurants, and so many more. Courts Business Solutions, a brand of the Unicomer Group.
Saving up to go. Anything we not backing down, like a bomb we ready to explode. Ain't gonna wait until my back against the wall. Ain't gonna.
Tobago, this is your chance to lock in the brunch experience of the summer. Sun up.
Real bad girl, I get nasty.
The brunch inclusive edition, the ultimate party in the East, where vibrant flavors, refreshing cocktails, and electrifying vibes collide. It's happening on Saturday, July 5th from 3 p.m. at Deltec Compound, Argyle. Bring your coolers, bring your crew, and brunch, sip, and vibe in style. This is the flavorful escape you've been waiting for. Grab your tickets now at Barcode, Harblow Supermarket, Lost Restaurant and Lounge, Deltec Compound, and committee members. Sun up! It's more than a brunch, it's an experience.
So, folks, we are back. You're watching the Minority Report, and we are heading right into another discussion this evening. We, in the same vein where we're discussing the mismanagement, the wanton mismanagement that we've been seeing in the THA of the, as they have said, scarce resources. And what we're seeing is nothing short of scandalous. If anyone is saying that something is scarce, you would tell yourself that you would want to be as prudent as possible in the way that you manage or the way that you treat with those resources. We want to take a bit of a throwback, however, to and this is simply a reminder for us here in Tobago as to how early this started. The issue of a few roads that were deemed in 2022 as emergency road works. And we just came from a situation, a discussion where we were discussing emergency vehicles. We are now talking about what was deemed to be emergency roadworks. And when something is tagged an emergency, it means that it must be treated with a certain amount of haste. And so these roads were in fact treated with haste. It's the fastest we've seen contracts awarded in the history of the THA. It's the fastest we saw one of the roads built. But since the completion of that particular roadway, we have seen a complete a halt of all other progress on the emergency roads that were tagged. But interesting, however, and Minority Leader, this is where our conversation begins. Interestingly, statements that were made by the Chief Secretary with respect to the payment process and the way that these roads were going to be treated with in terms of the design build finance options. We've seen those statements and those commitments. The very Chief Secretary has seemed to have gone back on his word.
Well, I think you are just being kind with words. What has happened in this situation, plain and bluntly, is that the Chief Secretary lied to the people of Tobago. And the question we all have to ask ourselves is, why would a Christian Chief Secretary lie so blatantly to the people? All right? And then you have to examine everything else that happened. And we've been saying to everybody in Tobago that those 4 roads were deliberately designed in the way for specific outcomes. And the Chief Secretary went out of his way to basically debunk those claims, because we felt that it was clear. The Tobago-based contractors were not given any opportunity to participate in those roads. And even when they were given an opportunity, the one Tobago contractor who was involved basically said in plain words that the arrangement was rigged as to keep them out. That was a document written to every member of the assembly indicating that process was flawed. And therefore, we continue to ask the question, if you're saying you're a Tobago-based party, and as he reminded us in the House the other day, that he's in fact Tobago only, how come you have 4 roads spending over $300 million and not one of those contractors is from Tobago? Not one. Not one single contractor. So you're spending $300 million. And you will recall, Tobagonians, what he tried to do, and that is where we caught him in the big fat lie recently, is to say, well, we couldn't involve the Tobago contractors because what we were embarking on is a unique arrangement of design build finance, meaning that these contractors will have to have the funding and the capacity to carry and fund these projects, but not just fund them, they will have to also be able to, after spending all this money, to wait an inordinately long time for payment. 9 months, and 18 months. He even he labored on the point that the 9 months only start after you actually get your certificate of completion and your defects liability period will have expired. That is when you start to get paid. Lo and behold, we found out basically in the dead of the night that this same chief secretary who gave this assurance went quietly with the Secretary of Infrastructure and they approved an arrangement to amend the terms of the contract as to facilitate payments, even notwithstanding that the projects were incomplete, which is a complete about turn from what is by definition design build finance. It means you must bring your funding, you must complete, and it's only then you get paid. But in this arrangement, after the chief secretary, basically after the Secretary of Infrastructure and the Division of Infrastructure, the process used, denied Tobagonians an opportunity to participate. And they were saying the reason why they couldn't participate is because they didn't have the funding. Then after they awarded to who they wanted to have awarded to, they then go and vary the terms of the contract. So therefore, in that situation, we continue to ask you, the people of Tobago, do you think that is right? That $300 million allocated for projects would have been basically arranged in such a way as to advance the interests of contractors outside of Tobago. And after they arranged that, after they facilitated that arrangement and they believe, yeah, we get through. Because we don't get Tobagonians understanding, well, them guys couldn't participate because they don't have the money. They then turn around and vary the terms as to basically start paying the guys as if it's a THA funded project. So it started off as you have to bring your money. But once you get through, the same people we have said had the capacity to spend their own money, you're now telling me they do have the capacity. So then what was the process? What was the procurement process that facilitated and that convinced you that these guys could have funded the project in the first place? And was there even a fair process? Was the process fair? And did they actually provide the evidence that they could fund the projects as well?
And Minority Leader, I just want us to, again, we always like the public to understand that this conversation is not something that we generated our heads. I'd like the director just to play that particular clip of the Chief Secretary in the House, and this is the highest court in the land, what he would have said.
Design officer, these contracts are design, build, finance contract modality, which means that it is designed for the contractor to complete 100% of the works before any payment is made, one. And two, payments are usually commensurate with the period after the defects liability has ended. And if you will observe from what I pointed out, the one project for which the defects liability period ended in July 2023, two payments were made totaling 11.24 million. Two of the other projects have not been completed, so 0 payment is required at this time. And the fourth project is within the defects liability period.
So there you have it, the Chief Secretary in the most honorable place in Tobago clearly and blatantly misled the House, because there he was telling us that no payments based on the terms of contract will be made until 100% of the project has been completed, and even after the project has been completed, it must satisfy the defects liability clause period, and then they would start to receive payments. However, what we came to find out is that 2 projects, that road down at Tobago Local Road, Shervan Road, where they have the roundabout, notwithstanding that that project is still incomplete, this administration paid to the contractor over $34 million. And that was done, I think, 1 day before the year ended in 2024. So quietly, they didn't even have the respect or the honesty or the dignity to come to you and say, well, X is the case, and we now really have a need to vary. No word. So in the dead of the night again, in silence, they went ahead and paid that contractor. But it gets worse. There's another contractor in a road that remains incomplete, that they went ahead and paid, notwithstanding that that contractor has not completed the Lamy Road. And this is what is... I don't know if they believe, I believe at this point, they really think perhaps we just don't care, or or they could basically spin anything. And because I cannot understand a chief secretary would give his word like this and not even have the courtesy. Right? So at least come back to the people. And
he spoke it publicly.
Yeah, because you publicly announced. And it was, and the final thing we have to consider about this arrangement, which is even more scandalous, is the rates that were paid. I want you all to remember that. This chief secretary, and I would say this dishonest chief secretary, came to you and told you that the Tobago-based contractors were corrupt because they were charging to basically pave the road with asphalt, hot mix. To place that hot mix, to pitch the road, they were charging $1,400 per ton. And he said that was a corruption that was inflated. But in this same arrangement for these same roads, this very dishonest chief secretary, after calling the Tobago contractors and their rate corrupt and inflated, is paying twice as much, $2,700 per ton. And I can tell you, fellow Tobagonians, if you go line by line, item by item, every item cost is inflated under this arrangement.
Correct.
And the chief secretary attempted to justify that by telling us, well, it's because it's design build finance, and of course you have a built-in kind of interest rate that you have to pay because they have to wait on their money. That was the justification. But now that you have varied the terms and you are paying them just like the under the same terms as the contractors. In fact, those contractors had to wait for their payment same way. But now that you are paying and at least they had finished their contract, imagine some of them are waiting now 4 years for payment for some of these works. Yet you are paying people for a contract where you had an arrangement to defer the payment, and now that you have brought forward the payment, you are still paying them out an inflated rate that is twice the value of what you are saying is corrupt and inflated. And therefore, this again is another scandalous arrangement, poor management of taxpayers' money, and complete mismanagement. So folks,
these things are heart-rending.
Some of these matters are attracting the attention of the police because we are clear, based on the evidence, that there's more in the mortar than the pestle. No chief secretary no administration will go out of their way to ensure that to create a situation where contracts are given to some contractors, and when those contracts are given under certain terms as the justification, then in the middle of it, vary just like that. We all have to ask ourselves the question, why?
No process, no nothing. None whatsoever.
No. Why would they go out of their way in that way? In an administration that is saying they don't have money, but yet you are paying higher rates. Bitumen under the PNM, $1,400 per ton. Paying for asphalt hot mix to place hot mix under this administration, $2,700 a ton. That is twice as much. You could build 2 roads with what they are paying for one.
And we want to encourage all of Tobago.
Now this highway robbery.
Do not be fooled.
So we are being robbed blind.
Do not
Tobagonians are being robbed blind by this administration.
One of the ways that a lot of times you see when you look at movies, you see robberies carried on. They often have a decoy, something that is noisy and attracts the attention of people. Tobago, do not be distracted by the noise of the shouting and the clatter and the clapping and the laughter. What is happening in the administration and management of your affairs is erroneous, to say the least. And we have to pay attention, because we will wake up one day and the same people who have been saying all the time, we do not have enough, we realize that we don't have any.
So, correct.
So we want to really continue these discussions. Again, the minority leader, minority councillor, who is not present with us tonight, but definitely locked on, they have been mandated by you, the people of Tobago, to carry out this function. And for those who might say, well, oh gosh, these things not important, these are the things that form governance. These are the things that inform the standard of living on the island. And we know that many persons over the last almost 4 years have been feeling extreme pain. Extreme pain as this administration continues to do much less with much more.
So as we wrap, I just want to take some time to speak to the supporters and members of the PNM, especially in Tobago, as we wrap up. As you can see, Tobago requires the PNM to rescue this island from the blatant, gross mismanagement, corruption, nepotism, and victimization. And therefore, and even lack of development. We are in an economic slump. Tourism is at its all-time low. Not because you're not hearing people talking, so THTA, the Hotel Association, they stop even clamor about hotel accommodation and the occupancy rate, because it's too low to even report. It is at an all-time low. The numbers, international arrivals, that is down. The cruise ship, they try to manipulate it, but they received less cruise calls this year than last year. Everything is in a decline under this administration. Construction sector decline. Agriculture decline. We are producing less food in Tobago than ever before. And therefore, my fellow PNM members, what we require at this time more than anything else is focus and unity. And for us all to put aside self, put island and party first as we go forward. So I really want us to focus, understand the mission, and let us come together to ensure that we rescue this island and put it back on a footing of growth, development, and opportunities for all Tobagonians across the board.
A very fitting closure to the program this evening. So folks, we continue on the Minority Report to do that which we've been called upon to do. hold this administration accountable, and more importantly, provide you every single time with the facts. Nothing here is made up, nothing is fabricated, everything is factual and is presented to you, the public, so that you are in a position to make an informed decision. I want to thank you for staying with us this evening. We leave the show, but we do not leave the task ahead of us, and we continue to forge forward, knowing fully well that Tobago is depending on us all to bring it back to a place of stability and balance. I'm Marlon David saying good night, and keep praying for your island, keep praying for your leaders, keep praying for us. Continue to enjoy the rest of your night. God bless.